The following is a production of Salt and Light Radio in Boise, Idaho. Kick off your work boots and pull up a boulder. It's time for Man Cave, discussing the issues that affect Catholic men in today's culture. Grab your favorite beverage, pick out a comfy spot around the campfire, and enjoy today's conversation with our two favorite cavemen, Pat King and Brian Howe.
And if you could do it all over again, you would say, honey, as you're dating, this is who I am. This is what I deal with. These are my struggles. And this is, I even give a preface where I'm like, guys, don't do what I'm detailing here.
No,
but I
please.
Want you to...
Or don't wait till it's like me where I
don't wait.
Destroyed my marriage already.
And I'm not saying confess everything. It was a very specific thing that I felt the Lord was calling us, the whole family to. And that's just it. Anyway, I was trying to say that it was so meaningful to just have someone say, I'm dealing with it. You talk about the humanity in that. You think you have friends, you think you know people. When someone says, brother, I'm learning how to love just like you, you're like, oh man, that's...
So you have friends on the surface, and then you have friends that are below the surface.
And you can make a friend that is this deep. You thought friendship was this deep. You can make a friendship that's this deep within a matter of minutes based on what a guy shares from his heart.
Well, and so that actually brings up one of my other points was that if I had known Eddie prior to, back when I was back who I was and he was, I probably wouldn't like him because I would have thought you were an arrogant wine snob and pretentious and all that. Even and you would have probably thought that I was just boisterous, beer snob, overconfident, sports snob, all that. Yeah. You would have thought the same about me because when you have this, and see, I don't know how to explain it, but when men have these errors, and I talk about errors of confidence, but they're in error of that. They're stronger at holding on. You are going to go to your death holding. Yes. So we tend to defend ourselves far greater.
Yep.
Which then the only way to really do that is to keep people from even finding out who we are really. So we
everything's superficial.
Bump heads, we bump chests, we keep people off because I'm great, you're not. I'm better than you because you're a wine snob and I'm a beer snob and we will never get along. And yet we have far more in common today.
Yep.
We like each other far greater. In fact, I'll say that I love this man because of what he's had to do, what he had to overcome, and who he's becoming because of it. And because we wouldn't have been in the same circles, but if we had ran into each other at some wine tasting show or something, or some event where you were selling your wine, we probably would have, it's just, I wouldn't have given you a second thought. But because we're humbling ourselves, trying to be better men, you share in someone's life because of that.
Exactly. And there have been a number of men over the years that they, just like you, they'll say, hey, I started reading it. I couldn't finish it because it hit.
Well, I'll finish it eventually, but I got to get through the chapter to stop tearing me down.
I was trying to not tear down, man. I was trying to show how bad it was and to get inside my head. But anyway.
But you're not tearing down men. What you're doing is you're verbally putting it in front of what they already know about themselves.
Yeah, and it makes no logical sense to address someone that's in the midst of that, let's say, and say, you're an idiot. No, you need to understand.
We do that to ourselves.
We do. But what you have to do is recognize if, in fact, just like we talked about earlier today, if you see a list of sins and you're willing to examine your conscience and then say, I am dealing with that, well, then this is a guide to say, well, maybe now what? Maybe you have to come to grips with the fact that this is a battle. Now, would you rather do battle now, right now? Or would you rather do battle when you're on your deathbed? Would you rather do battle for all eternity? It's very real to say, hey, no matter how you ended up in this current state, we're not here to, I certainly am not there, because it doesn't make any sense to like say, you are so stupid. It's better to say, are you going to own what you've done to this point?
Well, it doesn't matter whether you want to own it or not.
True.
You already own it.
You own it. Good point.
It is you.
Are you going to address it? Are you going to confess it? And this is the other thing. With confession to a priest, you have the option. I mean, it's different now, post-COVID, I think. A lot of times they won't allow face-to-face, I guess. But
most of them don't.
You have the option, right?
Right.
And face-to-face used to be, oh my gosh, this is so scary, right? As a kid, that's what I thought of. You get a sense of what face-to-face is. You get a different sense of it when it's the love of your life and the way that I saw my wife and how she reacted to what I was confessing is on a different level than confession. It should be on that same level.
Yeah.
Like, God, I offended you.
You should see that disappointment in their face.
Yes.
Like, oh man, I thought I had more hope for you than that. It's kind of like,
exactly.
Yeah,
it's humiliating as it should be.
So he's studying for his master's in theology, but as you probably know, that confession used to be public confession.
That's right.
Where you stood up in front of the crowd and told everybody what you did. Now, they don't make you do that anymore, thank goodness.
Yeah.
We're all going to know the end anyway, but, at least we're putting it off for a while.
Yeah, where everything is seen, exactly.
So, and so what he's referring to, so in the Catechism of the Catholic Church, we're referring to paragraphs 1852 and 1853, which was, and I just happened to open up the book to it, and it happened to work out with your recording your podcast today, and we're coming into Lent, that this is about the types of sins.
Yes.
And it goes through them. And I urge everyone, when you read that, and I hope you do, paragraphs are small. Read it, study it, but then take your Catholic dictionary. Anyway, and get the proper definition of each word in reference to Christ or to Catholicism as what they mean, so that you're not like, what is jealousy? You've got 2 fruit bars and I only have one. I want yours. Understand the true depth of that word. In each word, there's like a dozen words in there. That or more.
More, yeah.
That
it covers
everything.
Yeah.
And so to really, you need to dig a little deeper and know, so that when you're reading those words, you have a total understanding of what that word is encapsulating.
Yep.
So that you don't take our superficial cultural world definition of jealousy or whatever.
Yep.
And get a fuller meaning of what each word means, so that when now you're reading that, you're going like, oh, I see why I'm that way.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, I want to get back to earlier on in your life. Did your parents, did your parents ever see anything in you, know anything about your past before you wrote the book? Did they even read your book?
I don't. I told immediate family, tread lightly here. Just felt like it's heavy.
Yes.
So let's just leave it at that. Yeah.
So, but my parents were both divorced when I was 11.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they were divorced, both divorced. They divorced each other.
That's like Greg Norman. I want to thank my parents, especially my mom and my dad. Well said.
Or let me be honest, what, you're lying to me all the time?
Yeah, exactly.
So my parents were divorced, when I was 11. I'm the middle child, so there's younger kids and older kids, and it was traumatic for me. But they didn't talk about things like this. My dad was an alcoholic. I think my mom was an alcoholic maybe at the time, but I don't know. She was better at, I don't know. But
they didn't talk about what?
They didn't talk about, promiscuity. They didn't talk about, don't watch pornography. They just I think they kind of thought CCD and church, being Catholic, would be enough to keep you on that path.
I think that's the case in the 70s and 80s where you broach the subject, but it's so broad, like, do not commit adultery. Hey, guys, what's adultery mean? Well, let me explain just adultery. Yeah. It wasn't, hey, what's fornication? Hey, what's pornography? What does this all mean? But I think back, this sums up, I think, where the culture was heading. 7th grade, I was still relatively innocent, like very naive as well, as it related to the rest of my classmates. Mm-hmm. This sexual ed person came in to give a presentation. At the end of the presentation, I don't remember what the heck the guy was talking about, but I remember that he put these massive poster boards around the classroom, and they pushed all the desks off to one side. And the poster boards had different things written on them. Holding hands, making out, touching above the waist, touching
grade, what grade is that? Second?
7th grade. Just
7th grade. Okay.
Yeah, bear with me on this. Okay. And it's just getting progressively further, and then it ends with sexual intercourse on these poster boards. Okay, kids, I want you to go stand at the poster board. How far have you gone? Yeah. Oh. The furthest you've gone, go stand by that poster board. I had not held a girl's hand at that point, but I think it was 4 poster boards in was making out or something. No, it might have even been touching above the waist, whatever. I'm standing there shaking because I'm seeing everyone go to the greater, the more serious poster boards. And
you're becoming uncomfortable.
I'm waiting until the last second. I see what's the lowest. Where are the people going to land on the lowest? And it was somewhere around making out and touching certain areas. And so I walked over to that group because I would have been the only one that had not held a girl's hand. Now, that assumes that those other kids were not lying, which I believe they all were.
They probably all were.
What was the purpose of that exercise? In fact, it made me think, man, I am such a loser.
Exactly the purpose.
I haven't even held a girl's hand, and I'm in 7th grade. That's actually quite
What, you haven't gone all the way yet?
You haven't gone all the way. And then what happened next year? Pregnancies in the school, 8th grade. And again, what was that course? What was the motive of that? He didn't even conclude. I just don't remember.
7th grade for you would have been when? What year?
94. What's wrong with me? 94?
Yeah.
I'll say 94.
Well, so I grew up 70s, 80s. We brought in abortion in the 70s. And then we were living in Idaho at the times, so Idaho was quite a bit Neanderthal when it came to being behind the times culturally versus in Southern California, where we already had hippies, in the early 70s. I mean, the Volkswagen van with the colors on the outside, the colors on the inside.
Scooby-Doo?
Kind of. The long leather, the jackets with the tassels that came down all over them, the beads in them, and the long hair with the women wearing the flower, the flower bands around their head and stuff like that, and the schmuck or the flowy loose clothing, and bell bottoms and all that stuff, and so we were already seeing that in Southern California, and we moved to Idaho just short in 73. Moved to Idaho, and it's like backwoods. because
Yeah.
I'm a city boy now
Yeah.
at this point. And I even made a comment. I saw all the pickup trucks had gun racks with guns in them, and I thought that was standard issue for a truck you bought in Idaho, So, but it was quite a difference in cultures, and it took me a few years to assimilate into that. But that's the reason why I moved back here after getting married and living in Southern California again. And I raised my kids. I said, I want to go back to that fruitfulness, that fullness, that freedom to be more family oriented. And it's amazing the amount of pressures that's put on you by the culture. And you bring up a good point. So I'm growing up. My formative years are now in Idaho, and we said the Pledge of Allegiance. We still had a prayer in school. We even learned to balance our checkbooks in the 8th grade. I mean, we filled out an employment application.
Wow.
You could get a job at 14. You could drive a car at 14. There were so many freedoms given to youth in Idaho because we were taught responsibility, and we were taught there was a moral purpose, and there was a greater being overhead, watching over you, a greater call. We had less issues with trash on the ground than they do today, and we weren't bombarded with environmental impact studies or environmental quests. We were just told that, hey, someone else is always watching. I mean, if I think even today of throwing any gum wrapper out the window, I flinch because my mom's going to reach across and slap me upside the head and make me go out and pick up that or something like that on the road. And she
classic.
did that.
Oh,
so
man.
Again, adult in the room.
Yeah.
Adult in the room, guiding your kids and challenging adults to be better. So but when it came to things like pornography, sex, it wasn't that they were taboo. It just wasn't in front of your face at all time to where parents had to constantly be on the lookout for someone else challenging or changing your mind or convincing you this is the path to go down.
Yes, and you can't dismiss it and say, the kids are resilient, for example.
Oh, I hate that word.
The enemy
goes after kids because they're not resilient.
They're not. And like I said before, you could wake up, it sounds so weird, wake up on your deathbed and say, oh, man, I've been enslaved this entire time. I bought the lie. I lived the lie. It sure felt good in the moment, didn't it? And it's
temporary.
And it's just smoke, right? And that phrase, kids are resilient, and boys, okay, this is a different type of topic, but that can also, the boys will be boys. I've heard that used in contexts that are, I believe, are true. I've also, if a kid wants to, at 5 years old, run into a wall because he just wants to.
I did that.
I did that. You did that. I know many kids. I know many adults that are doing that. But when there's some phrase to just dismiss destructive, soul-wrecking behavior and say that someone's going to grow out of it. Like I used to be told by a doctor with asthma, you're going to grow out of it. Okay, that's quite different.
Yeah.
A man that doesn't know how to handle his emotions, does not know how to properly express himself, that doesn't know how to be direct with certain things, that when the stresses of life come in, you think a teenager that has very little responsibility, right? If he's failing in this area, do you think that if that is left unchecked or it's just dismissed as, childhood, this, that, or the other, that the stresses of life, when they hit him smack in the face, that he's not going to revert to old habits or continue the old habits? So that's what's, I think.
So the phrase "boys will be boys" works for a certain period of time in a child's life, but the problem is most people leave it at "boys will be boys." They never say, "Okay, you'll be a boy, you'll do stupid things, but I'm going to tell you why that's stupid."
Yeah.
Okay. So my mom would tell moms tell you, "Hey, don't touch the stove; it's hot."
Yeah.
So you do it anyway, right? Or you stick the key in the light socket, right? But mom doesn't look at you and say, "Okay, go do it again." She says, "Now see, that hurt.
What did you learn?
What'd you learn?"
Yeah.
She would question you like, okay, I told you not to do it, but you're gonna buck authority and do it your own way. But did you learn anything from it?
Yeah.
So the problem lies with the fact that, oh, boys will be boys, and then they let it go. They never challenge. They never question. What'd you learn? Why you know why you don't run into a wall now?
Yeah.
You know why you don't do that, right?
Yeah.
So,
but like jumping off of a roof, for example, and guys are jumping onto mattresses that they put on the ground. That is in the category. If I saw that, I'd say boys will be boys. We went on this camping trip when I was in 6th grade, and we set up all these mattresses on the ground. And we're jumping off of these there's like triple bunks onto these mattresses, and kids were getting hurt, twisting ankles, being unbelievably stupid. But you could still classify that as, wow, there's just this immense amount of energy and all that. But there are other things where I would want to sit down some of the, young adults and say, at some point you have to say, what is the motive behind behind the behavior, and what is it that you're hoping to achieve? Because I want to ask myself that, like, as a 20-year-old, what is it that you're hoping to achieve here? And have you, for 1 second, thought about your life in even 5 years, 10 years? And it's almost, you just think it's...
Well, the old adage, if all your friends jumped off a cliff, you're going to do it too?
Yeah.
And depends on if there's water below.
I was going to say a lot of people would say absolutely. Yeah. Those are my good friends. I trust them.
Well, so yeah, I mean, I could go through a whole litany of things that I've done in my past that were stupid, and I did regularly until something happened, then I stopped doing it because it was detrimental to me, But still, it comes down to the boys will be boys. You still need to teach what boys will be boys do. We had bottle rocket wars. We're aiming them at each other and shooting each other with bottle rocket. I mean, I would not advocate that today, but we did. But my mom was like, "See, it's stupid, wasn't it?"
Yeah, I had a buddy that dropped a firecracker in a glass bottle, and I don't even know what he was doing. And there was a delay. And he was standing near the bottle, and it just burst. And there were guys that were standing, 15 feet away. We're running into my buddy's house, and his parents are like, "What just happened?" "Oh, nothing." There were 3 or 4 guys that had blood running down their legs from the shards hitting their legs. "Oh, no, nothing. We're just being complete morons out here."
So,
man.
So getting back to your parents, were they alarmed? Did they have any clue? Were they oblivious?
Yeah, no one had.
But were they talking? Were they like is the bees and the birds and the bees?
See,
they give you those stories.
This is the sad part. My memory is shot for my teenage years, many of my teenage years. So I don't know what was discussed, and I say the same thing about catechism, where people will say, "You were poorly catechized." And I said, that may be. But there is also the element of I didn't give.
Yeah. Didn't care.
Didn't care, right? And it could be the same with my parents. I don't know. I know that I remember hearing about the dangers of sexuality. And see, and it's when you frame
bad.
It like that, right? That's why theology of the body is so important.
Yeah.
You take this negative and this fear-based approach, turn it. And it's more about, you want to seek true charity, you want to seek the true good, you want to understand true dignity, and the fruit that comes from restraint and love and cherishing people, that takes everything in a different direction. Because like you said about the stove, don't touch that. Okay, I think I'm going to touch that. Right? Mm-hmm. Norm Macdonald.
She challenged me.
Norm Macdonald had this great joke where, his dad took him aside at 13 years old because Norm was showing an interest in smoking. And he goes, "You want to smoke, huh?" He shoves a cigar in his mouth, makes him smoke the entire thing. And then Norm goes, "So that's when I became a heavy smoker." It's trying to teach him this lesson, and it's like, well, now you've exposed yourself or exposed someone to this horrible thing, but because of our, I don't know, carnality, you're like, oh, now I'm actually interested in that. Thank you for showing me that. Yeah. And even if you instill fear, it's almost like it has the opposite effect. Like, oh, I'm supposed to fear this? Yeah. No, I think I'm going to go check it out myself. And I think that there's far greater potential in, again, doing the opposite of what nature, what the world expects.
Reverse psychology.
And,
So that's how I learned to like black olives. When I was a little kid, I said I hated black olives. I don't know why I said I hated them. I don't think I've ever had any. But my mom's attitude was, oh, good, more for me. And so I instantly, and it was a big old, it's Thanksgiving. I think it's Thanksgiving or Christmas.
Yeah.
Big old bowl of black olives sitting on there. And my mom goes, well, what do you mean more for you? Now, she tried that with liver nuggets. That did not take. I tried that. No, I'm not a fan. But she said, oh, black olives more. And I've loved black olives ever since. I mean, I started reaching, why does mom like them and not me,
That's funny.
Why should I not have them? She's going to hoard them all. So I started like, So, but I think in contrast that we're willing to talk about heaven or hell, but never together, never explain, here's where you can live your life or here's where you can live your life.
Sure.
And here's why. But I know that I was taught the rosary at a young age, and I was taught that's the thing that brought me back, really, was that actually brought me to come back to the Catholic Church, was that quest for, why did my grandmother say it every night? And why did she pray for me all the time? She said rosaries on my behalf.
Sure.
Because she was praying for my future, not just for myself, but for my future.
Yeah.
And for my future of everybody else in my life.
Yeah.
So we need to do that. We need to admonish the sinners. We need to help men find their way. And you do that through a loving, caring manner. We need to lead our spouses to heaven.
Yep.
We need to teach our kids how to seek heaven and be that leader to heaven when they get older, because no one can. It's like you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink.
Mm-hmm.
You can do everything you can to lead them to God, to Christ, to heaven. Be an example. Yep. Be all that. That's where free will comes in. So you have to help them find a way. Figure out why it's so important.
Yeah.
And I think your book, your podcast, Catholic Recon, and now you've started adding some little short stories, Catholic Catechism of the Catholic Church. Mm-hmm. You've started doing a little bit of small readings to add to that.
Yep.
Because I know finding people to interview is hard to get their time. And
absolutely.
And you get... there's a lot of willing people out there. It's just finding them and getting the schedules to align. Yeah, you have all. He works from home, so he has all this free time. All this free time. We were going to do this last week, but he got sick, and he called in sick on my day. And then I had to do the live show by myself, which Eddie who? Yeah. So. Eddie and I, we're going to do this again because I don't even think we got into.
No. We'll do it again.
But I enjoy our conversations because they always lead down. He's the study guy. I'm the, I don't want to say touchy-feely guy, but I'm the one that has lived a lot of this. Mm-hmm. So I have a lot of practical knowledge. I may not be as book learned as you are. I do not want to be a master in theology because I don't think I have that kind of time frame left in my life to do so. But I'm constantly reading and studying, and we share a lot of things. And I think we bring a good chemistry when it comes to a conversation and to what we talk about, because we're looking at them from not different really points of view, but in a different way.
Yeah,
come about them in a different way.
Yeah,
and so I appreciate your time here today. Again, get the book. Really, get the book. He doesn't make a whole. You make some money out, right? You still haven't paid off the first.
If it goes through Amazon, I'll make $3.25 per copy.
Oh, you're eating steak and filet and lobster
every day. Yeah.
So, but get the book, and there's a lot of books out there. This is one of those few books that really helps you soul search. help. It'd be great to go in just before, read it so that you have a better way of going to confession, because I think you're going to tap into things in yourself going like, ooh, I squashed that down a long time ago.
Yeah, exactly.
But
I left that alone.
Yeah,
Where did that come from?
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was still in there,
And it is through reading or watching stuff that challenges you, that makes you realize, oh, this is something that brings up stuff that you maybe did squash.
Yeah.
And you may live your life not unveiling things like that. You may be fine. I don't know. I don't want to take that chance with my life.
Well, and that's why spiritual direction and solid spiritual direction comes into play. If you are Catholic, see, I didn't have that part of it.
No,
I
I
had stepped away. And so then there were real consequences in many areas. But if someone has access to a spiritual director, start there. Here's what is on my heart, Father, for example. How do I deal with this? How do I approach healing? And get counsel. I will never, ever act as if this is your counselor. It is to hopefully open up your heart a little bit by reading about.
Well, and I don't want to assume anything, but I'll bet you, in fact, I'm almost certain your marriage is far better today than it was even 5 years ago.
What this did, even in the first few months for communication, like that's a scary word to so many men. Yeah. Communication. Like that is...
Honey, we need to talk.
It's
the scariest few words.
It's everything, is just to be able to share your thoughts for the first time.
And it's the burden. I mean, it's just there. I mean, now it's like...
It's there.
No tiptoeing,
Correct.
No fear of it. The other shoe dropping or the hammer falling or she's walking away. She's lived with you all this time. She's been through all the worst of it. It's only going to get better.
And like you said, for her to be able to edit this was what? Only God. Yeah. And it wasn't that she wanted, like, let me control this thing. She said, I care. And I want some of those conversations that we had. You wanted to relive them for the sake of helping others. I want to help women see my side. And I said, this is... Well,
Eddie's got to bail here soon.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to walk out whether I'm done or not.
That's a good point.
So let's end. But thank you, Eddie, for doing this. I appreciate it. We will pick this up again. And part of our radio show is a good conversation on the live radio show. So you can always go to Salt and Light Radio. And they have an app now, Salt and Light Radio.
I just saw that at the men's conference.
It has an app.
Yeah.
So you can actually go to the app and listen anytime you want. The YouTube channel is Salt and Light Radio Boise. Okay, and then you can subscribe to that. Like Eddie's podcast is Catholic Recon in his own. Is that the title of the channel? That's the channel, right? So we don't have enough of this out there, to be honest with you. Pornography squelches us. I mean, they're just like tons more sites.
Oh, for every video that's being released that's kind of supportive of certain things. There aren't many that combat that I've seen, but maybe they're out there.
So we'll end with the St. Michael's prayer in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, cast into hell Satan and all the evil spirits who prowl about the world seeking the ruin of souls. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Man Cave, a weekly podcast discussing the issues that affect Catholic men in today's culture. A production of Salt and Light Radio in Boise, Idaho. To learn more about our ministry, please visit our website, saltandlightradio.com.